Hi, everyone. Welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. We're talking film, prose. We're talking about work in the world of horror, as well as, I believe, work for children uh, alongside. So glad to be talking with author Sheldon Higdon. Sheldon, thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And not everyone can kind of move skillfully between age groups and genres that way of crafting, but I know that you have award-winning work. The Witches of Autumn is a title that I know you for, and then I know that we also have The Giving Box to discuss, a short film project.
Yeah, yeah, it's weird. Well, I mean, not weird, but like I didn't. It was I never sat down and go, I'm going to write a children's book, a middle grade book or whatever. It was just because when the original idea came to me more than 10 years ago, I had twins, so they sort of
Mm-hmm.
sparked that, that interest. And I already had the name, the Eerie Brothers, in mind for a while. Um, but once they were in my life, I started just pondering, what kind of mischief and journeys and adventures are they going to have? So I thought, well, let me use the Erie Brothers because I like that, and let me sort of do my take on the Hardy Boys, um,
Mm-hmm.
which was my original idea. I was like, okay, it's my Hardy Boys. But then I don't think I ever like hit that. um, but yeah, so um, and then I've always written most of my short stories and stuff like that are always were always for adults. So yeah, so I mean, for me to go to middle grade, I didn't really um, change the way I do things. I just was more aware of what I couldn't do because I was writing for
Mm-hmm.
middle grade. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
I wrote it as though I was still writing towards adults. I just because I didn't want to write down to the kids. Um, and so I came up with the Erie Brothers at the end. And so with the Giving Box, that's obviously an adult oriented film.
Mm-hmm.
Um, screenwriting. I mean, I don't do much of it as I used to, but when I do it, get I fall right back in the it's like riding a bike. You get right back on the seat, and you just sort of know how to do it again. And then with the new novel, I just it's weird. I can just go from, okay, it's not middle grade, it's adult, and go that way. Oh wait, no, it's for kids, and then I can go that way. It's
Cool.
not. I
Yeah.
don't have to get myself psyched up in either way to do it. I can just sort of do one or the other and be fine with it.
Yeah. Any particular authors, inspirations in the horror space or middle grade space that have spoken to you over the years?
Um, yeah, I mean, are you regarding to the authors themselves or books or the books they've written or?
Book titles or even things outside of books, since we're also talking film or pop culture.
Um, well, I mean, from the children's standpoint, I have hundreds of children's books for my kids. So, and I used to go to their school and read to their classes. Um, and so, even now when I go to the bookstore, I'll look around, but then I end up at the children's section because I want to see what's going on currently. I want to see what's happening. If there's anything I want to buy that looks cool or sounds cool or somebody I know. Um, so, but I mean, I writing the Erie Brothers. One book that and I'm not ashamed to tell people. Like whenever I write something, even with the Erie Brothers, I mean, I could write it without any hesitation, really, but I still, and I read it previously, but I read it again just as a research, if it will, was Percy Jackson series.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, so. and for instance, if I needed to write a Western novel for some reason, I would go out and find three of the best Western novels I can find, read them, and it's sort of research purposes to see how they did it, what they did, you know, um,
Hmm.
find out what the traps are. And so I did that. I was like, okay, well, I've already read that series, so let me pick it up this time, but I'm going to take a pen to it. And I marked up, the books as I went through, going, okay, here he did this, and he, this and that. Um, and so that sort of prepped me in a way. Um, and then, of course, as a kid, well, older than some kids, I guess, and R.L. Stein came out, I was reading his books. So I had a lot of that book is me. So I used a lot of me as a kid in that book, so that's where a lot of my source came from. I rode BMX bikes, I went through the woods and was jumping everything and, out all day, until the stars were shining and then I had to go home and stuff. So, um, that's why I get think it was somewhat easy because there was me in there as well. I mean, and I was using all the other material as sort of tools to help me, go through it and stuff. So, um,
It's cool.
but yeah, that's a series that's um, definitely was probably an influence on me when I wrote the book.
Yeah, I have a lot of appreciation for Rick Riordan as somebody that he taught middle grades. And you mentioned Westerns. I think he got his start as a Western writer. So but he has some fun range as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You'd be surprised, how many writers, older ones that are now that we look up to and have been around forever started off writing Western novels and under a pseudonym or whatever. Um,
Hmm.
But, and then I have copies of the Hardy Boys and I did go back and read those, but they didn't have much of an effect on me just because
Yeah.
of when they came out and the way they were written and things like that. Not saying that they were terrible or bad or anything, but they didn't help me as much as I thought they would.
Yeah. They were of their time for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm curious about, before we talk about the new book that you're working on, I am curious about that movement from like writing to screen and writing prose. Um, how does your process change there, or what do you keep in mind when writing for the screen?
Well, when you're writing for the screen, you'll give details on the scene, but you're not given a lot of details for the characters. You're pretty much writing what you would see on screen. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You're not going to go dive into the head of the character and go, oh, well, at 13, you know, so and so had a mishap at school. That's for the director or even actors for that matter to sort of fill in that backstory for themselves to portray that character. I can't, from a screenwriting point of view, I don't. You don't do that. That's not my job. My job is to write what you're going to see visually,
Mm-hmm.
and how they're going to act. Are they crying in this scene because of this happened, or are they getting a little crazy because of what's happening now, or whatever. Um, but obviously, when you write fiction, you can dive in deep and go through their head and their backstory and find out who their parents were and their grandparents and their favorite ice cream, whatever. So just knowing that, I mean, I guess for me, it's just I already know it, so I don't have to think about it. So when I'm writing a screenplay, I just go into that film mode. Um, and I do the same thing when I write fiction. I mean, to me, it's literally a movie or another world that I'm currently in watching with them, stepping, walking along with them or riding their shoulder or whatever I'm doing. Um, and so it does play out, like a film. So when I'm thinking of new ideas, I see everything as images and moments and film sections, play before me. And when I lay in bed at night, if I'm trying to figure out a scene, I'll play that in my head over and over in different ways. Okay, here's one way. Now let's try it this way, or from this different point of view, or this different angle, or whatever. And then when I find what I think works the best, then that next day I will make notes and make sure I remember that. So when I get to that point, I can tackle it.
Yeah. Yeah. What makes for an effective horror story?
Um, I think it's all emotion for me. I mean, obviously, it's a question probably with 100 different answers depending on who you ask and what they have. But horror, I mean, it comes down to honesty
Hmm. Hmm.
and in the feelings, but tied together to some degree. I mean, because if you have something that happens that just isn't honest to the story or the character, then it's going to come off flat, and you're going to know it. Um, and definitely the emotions have to be there, and they have to come from somewhere that's honest too. You just don't want to create something out of nothing just to move the story forward, or it's just false. You know what I mean? Um,
Hmm.
so for me, it comes from, and a lot of times there's truth in fiction. Um, so for me, like I can use my personal life for certain moments. Um, if I want to pull off a certain feeling, especially if I'm dealing with depression, like I try to use that to my advantage as much as I can
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
instill certain feelings into a character or even a certain ambiance into the scene. Um, a mood, a tone, whatever it might be. Because I think the more honest and truthful your storytelling is, whether it's horror or romance or whatever, if that honesty is there, then it's gonna be fine because people will pick up on that because you're reading it for truth, you're reading it for honesty, you're reading it for feelings, and you're reading it for empathy and sympathy. You know,
Hmm.
so I think
Hmm.
that has to start off at that base point of being honest with not only the reader but your character.
Yeah. Yeah. Very well said. Absolutely. That human connection.
Yeah, I mean you need that, or you don't have much really.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything that you'd like to say about the new book, your process on that and how that's coming?
Um, it's pretty much ready to go. I've seen a sort of a working cover for it. I should be getting the finalized version of that soon. Um, but the funny thing about this book is this book I've has been completed since 2013. Um, it's been sitting in my computer because I wrote it for my thesis novel when I went to Seton Hill University for their MFA program in writing popular fiction. Um,
Oh.
and so it's went through many different titles. It's went through various changes. I mean, from the original is it can be read at their library. I think you have to, I don't know how you get to read it, but it's there somehow. And so I mean, to be honest with you, I'm a bit nervous for the book to come out because after the Eerie Brothers, it's like, okay, I hope people will like this as much as that one, but this one's a different story. It's for adults, it's psychological suspense. It deals with um, a character whose father is an 83-year-old father commits suicide up on his farm. And then the character has to go up and take care of business, lay the dad to rest, fix up the house, the old farmstead, sell it, whatever. But he starts getting the feeling that the place is haunted. Um, he starts learning about who his dad was. And then by the end of it, he's questioning who he really is. So it's about, again, as with the Erie Brothers, it's about family in the end. That's what it's
Yeah.
really about. So is this one, but this one's about family, but not really knowing the people in your family as much as you think you know them. I mean, we all don't know everybody like we think we know everybody. You know, we all have our facades, but then at home we're different people than everybody. We all have our issues and whatnot. Um, and so it's like, when you see the news and the neighbors talking about the guy who his kids used to babysit, whatever, and then it turns out he's, like has three bodies in the basement. And you're like, I didn't know John would never do that. He's been a good guy. He used to watch my kids. I'd mow his grass.
Mm-hmm,
It's kind of
mm-hmm,
like that. It's kind of like that, but with family. Um, and it's about finding who you really are as a person, discovering who you really are, um, and being okay with that. So it deals with um, loss, grief, family issues. It deals with there's a kidnapping in it. It deals with missing children. Um, so there's a bit of mystery to it, but it's mostly psychological suspense. And it's called Dark Roots because roots of a family tree. Um,
mm-hmm.
so, and it mostly takes place between Pittsburgh and like 4 hours north of here up in the mountains in a small community. So juxtaposition.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that. That sounds fascinating, and it sounds like you're tackling some really relevant questions. If I'm a listener out there and I want to find out more, where are some places I might go and see your work?
I always tell people to go to my website, sheldonhigdon.com, and then all my social media buttons are there. It has the latest information, and then they can also there's a link there to like Amazon and Barnes and Noble and stuff, so they can check out any other anthologies or magazines and stuff that I've been in,
Yeah, yeah,
as
you've been
well as
widely
the Eerie Brothers.
anthologized.
Yeah, as well as the Eerie Brothers, but that one you can't currently get because since it's with a new publisher, the old publisher pulled it down, so that's not available until the reprint comes out next year. So
The reprint is on the way as well.
yeah, the reprint in 2026 as well as book two in 2026, and then books three and four in 2027, and then the Dark Roots comes out today is the 19th, so November 14th. And then the movie, The Giving Box, which I just saw the whole film a few days ago for the first time, and I'm pretty excited for people to see it. That won't be out publicly for the public probably another year because it's going to make a festival run first. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have a collection of short stories with the publisher, so I'm waiting to hear back on that as well. So a lot of work ahead of me, but rather be busy than not. So
Yeah. I'm looking forward to all of those things and glad to have you back here anytime to chat about the work.
yeah, I appreciate it.